So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is knowing when to say no. It's the hardest thing to do because, at the start it's shiny penny syndrome. You're running into so many different things, but knowing when to say no now is the biggest lesson I've learned.
When you're in that early stage, you're kind of grasping at straws most of the time, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. Let's do everything. Yes to that. Yes to that.
All your property gurus of the world, and if they're dancing in front of a Lamborghini versus dancing in front of a Vauxhall Corsa, you know who you're gonna go to. You have to put the persona out that I'm good. Things are going well. Really, it could be a crashing fireball on the other end.
Anyone that says they've not been through that as a business owner is either an oil baron or a liar.
It's all well and good saying that I want to be full-time in business and I want to be here. What do you go for, reward or peace?
Yeah. Whatever your personal preference is.
Exactly.
Welcome to another episode of the Property Developer Show, the podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very good friend of mine that's been on a similar journey to me at a similar time frame, certainly a day one member in terms of the property journey. He's a property investor, entrepreneur, and all-round great guy. Seth Rayan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, mate. Pleasure to be here.
Honestly, it is a genuine pleasure to have you on here because we've kind of had the same journey in a way. Yeah. And it's definitely been, I guess, in terms of like the growth, the business opportunities, the kind of way we've evolved as people, I think has been certainly similar. So for people that don't know who you are, just very briefly, just a quick intro, because obviously you've done podcasts before, so very briefly, who are you?
No, absolutely. I think first of all, thank you very much for having me on. And, there's very few people that I would feel comfortable sharing the journey with. Phone calls, Scott, what have you done here? Blah, blah, blah. We've had a few little moments like that. And, it's always great to come on a nice platform like this and share the story. So my name's Seth. As you mentioned, property investor, but before that was an accountant. Spent about 7 years in corporate experience and shifted into property. Then later into entrepreneurialism. Started a few different businesses, a couple have failed, and then now probably in a bit of a journey where property sort of stuck by me all the way, and I've always been looking for that other little business to just sort of attach to the property investment side. Started something new or joined on to something that was nice and fresh. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But property through and through, accountant, numbers guy, and all round just up for some good, honest business.
Good stuff. So I think, although we're a property podcast, I know a lot of people, and similar to both our situations, that property is kind of a constant in life. It like sometimes you're really busy with it. Sometimes it might be a bit of a lull where you're trying to find the next deal. But it's certainly something in my life that has kind of come and gone, but it's always been there. And when people always say, "Oh, you in property?" I am in property, but I'm in business more than I'm in property. But property is kind of a bit of I don't like the word, but side hustle. It's something that's always kind of been a part of my life. And I think I want to make the episode about, I guess, that journey and how I guess you evolve from that process of accountant, property investor, entrepreneur. What sort of skill sets do you think kind of go into that like sort of process in terms of, because you must have something about you.
There's a lot of transferable skills. A lot that you pick up on, a lot that you don't know really, and suddenly you put yourself in a scenario and you're boxing a corner and you need to get 40 grand of finance within the next 7 days or else the deal's going to fall through, and suddenly a bit of grit comes out that you didn't think you had. There's an element of that. I think the other real thing to it is you've got to be a people's person in this game. And like, I'm a firm believer in honest business. Like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It goes a long way. And the way it's looked after me really has been making sure that I am looking after people that look after me. And you never know when those seeds that you've planted with an individual blossom into giving back in the future. Small scenario might be where you've rang me up and we've never done any element before, and I've given you an hour of time on the phone and suddenly you're now doing well and I need some help, and you're like, Seth, yeah, anytime whatsoever. That's happened a lot. And that's just general networking. And then there are other aspects of the accountancy side of, data analytics, deal appraisal, thinking more than just numbers, thinking, with no emotion and looking at pure facts as to how things are going on. I think that's allowed me to get into certain deals, get into certain businesses, but also actually walk away from certain things as well, and think, you know what, this isn't one for me now. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned is knowing when to say no. That's the biggest. It's the hardest thing to do because, at the start it's shiny penny syndrome. You're running into so many different things, but knowing when to say no now is the biggest lesson I've learned.
What kind of falls into the play of saying no to something then, in terms of, I guess, business opportunity or property? Like, is it that you've got this is I know this works. Anything outside of that scope is a risk. I'm not willing to say, or is it just very much gut instinct? That's a no for me.
It's all part of the journey, and what stage of the journey you're at. Starting out, I was very much so all over the place. I want to do a bit of this, I want to do a bit of that, I want to do a bit of rent to rent, I want to do a bit of property sourcing, I want to do a bit of investing. Tell me to go and raise finance, sure as hell I'm not going to get anywhere near that. Like, I'm not good enough for that. And the thing really came out to figuring out, right, what is the vision I want to be on? I did so many things badly when I was trying to do too many things at once, where I was then like, right, okay, got given an opportunity to do a bit of project management work, did that, right, all I'm focusing on is project management. I went all in, said no to everything. If I don't do sourcing, I don't do this, I don't do that. You buy a deal, you need a project managing, give me the keys and I'll do it from start to finish. And I just focused my craft on that and suddenly got to an element of credibility where I was then able to pivot into other sectors or other strategies, and people would trust me a lot more because I'd built that level of credibility in that one thing. So that was the idea of saying no. And then alongside of that, then suddenly opportunities came about. I, went into multiple different businesses, whether it was jewelry in the family trade, whether it was going into a clothesline with a friend. And, albeit that there were things were working well, but it just didn't work for me, for my situation, for my scenario. It was more problem with me than with the business and everyone else. But what I soon realized is that it's really hard to keep in the same mind space when you've got too many different things going on. Whereas in property now, I've got 5 acquisitions about to go through. We've got 1 that's going to be completing in an hour. And I don't mind that now because that's all I focus on, with the added incentive of now a separate business that we've got. But there's a lot more clarity in the sense of, right, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are property days, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the other business days. And it's just straight no, like, sorry, mate, I'm not in that.
I think that's part of, I guess, maturing as a business owner and as a property entrepreneur. It's that kind of understanding that in order to get an incredible amount of success, you've got to be able to spend your time wisely. And if you're trying to do 100 things at once, that let's say you're providing 1% to all those 100 things, the outcome of all of those 100 things are never going to be what it could be if you were doing one thing 100%. 100%. And I think when you're in that early stage, you're kind of grasping at straws most of the time, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. Let's do everything yes to that, yes to that. And I think you get to that point where you've kind of evolved as a person, business owner, where you kind of go, right, let's focus on this because I know this works. The project management, obviously for you, that's where the kind of, I guess, golden goose was initially. And that's kind of now evolved into obviously other opportunities. Because I mean, project management is a transferable skill, whether it's property or delivering, an IT project or delivering a business strategy, whatever it might be. And that's obviously now enabled you to kind of get to where you are today. What do you think, or what was the situation you were in where you kind of realized, I'm doing too much here, I need to focus on one thing? What was that kind of situation that you were in?
Things were uncontrollable. more than anything.
When you say uncontrollable, like
you're having to put different hats on.
Yeah.
I need to do this. I need to be out doing sourcing. I need to go out and do viewings. I need to then appraise deals, offer refurb estimates and proposals on what PM fees would look like. And then I soon realized what I was winning more business in and where I needed to focus in that point. At the start, I was trying to be busy as idiot and think about what is the best way to come across. I can provide you a turnkey service. Like that was the buzzword. And I was so fixed on saying that, yeah, I can provide you the turnkey service. I was never even getting deals to go to the project management stage because I couldn't bloody find them. You know what I mean? There was that many people that were messaging. And, and now I've got a different opinion on how sourcing works and how sourcing is compared to what it was then. But I soon realized that if I branded myself as just an individual that can take big buildings that have structural issues that go full back to brick, you're spending 250k at least on them. That's Seth's your guy to go to. Like he could deliver that, and we've delivered countless of those now. And I soon realized that those are the projects that one are financially rewarding enough for me to be able to put a lot of time and energy on, but then at the same time to be able to meet and sort of interlink with business owners, property investors that now have turned into really solid joint venture partnerships.
What's the key to kind of finding those types of people then? Obviously, it's one thing being a project manager, but is there another thing finding the £250,000 projects?
Yeah. I think your messaging is a key thing. If naturally, like, you see it all the time, like all your property gurus of the world, and if they're dancing in front of a Lamborghini versus dancing in front of a Vauxhall Corsa, you know who you're gonna go to. And the same thing comes down to the property space. If I'm showing you around a 2-bedroom buy-to-let refurb that's 20 grand and we're changing carpets, kitchens, bathrooms, versus taking out back walls and rebuilding walls and new floors, new joists, new insulation, new sound requirements. We're talking through every single aspect of it. And you come and see me on a project and I can tell you every single element of that project to detail, what's going there, what's going here, what's going that, and I don't need plans. Suddenly you can hold your own. And it took a bit of time to get to that stage, but now it's at a point where I don't want to say we've got it boxed, but ultimately the trades, the team are the guys that get it done, but we've got the process boxed on how it needs to be done. And the minute you can show you've got the process boxed with evidence, you'll win business without even trying to sell.
Going back to when you were getting those first clients, and what was the approach then? Obviously,
social media mainly.
Okay.
Was just document myself, go to the networking events that we used to always go to. At the start, it's tough, and then suddenly got to a point where we just got to know some really good repeat clients, and then I don't want to say we were picky. Picky is the wrong word. We were just selective on which deals we wanted to pursue and which deals, like, for me, it was also like we were selective on like what was more character building. I've just done a 6-bed HMO, but someone's offered me a 10-bed HMO. Yep, I'll cut my price a little bit just to make sure I can do it, to show I can do a 10-bed HMO. So it was a lot of that at the start, and then build that up to a point where we got to a point of actually quitting work and jumping full time into this, and that's been an even bigger lesson. It's all well and good saying that I want to be full time in business and I want to be here, and better than anyone, but the most peaceful life that you can ever have is working for someone most of the time. But the most rewarding life is on this side.
Yeah.
So it's, what do you go for, reward or peace?
Yeah. Whatever your personal preference is.
Exactly.
So I guess fast forward into today, obviously you've kind of still doing the property stuff as we discussed, but you've pivoted into a different kind of business, of which I know, but for the listeners, if you want to kind of go into a bit of detail as to what that business is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've just stepped forward into the fast food business. We've got a very, very, very cool brand that we've joined the team of. The brand's called Straight Outta Nashville. And I've not actually talked about this before, so it's,
Here we go,
it's a bit of an
the
exclusive.
food looks mad, by the way. Looks mega.
So you have to come down sometime.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting brand whereby I don't want to say it's a chicken shop, because it's more than just a chicken shop in terms of how the branding is. When you think of Straight Outta Nashville, if you don't know it's food, it'll probably take you a few guesses to think it's food. And when it is, there's all sorts. We want to create it into a lifestyle brand. We want to create it into a club where we'll do society events, community outreach work, charity work, potentially have a clothing line attached to it. Try and compete with your Five Guys of the world, and get out there. And right now we're on a bit of a mad craze of speaking to potential franchise opportunities. We're opening a couple of stores ourselves, and then we're franchising out to some very, very interesting places that we're already speaking to. We've had a couple of inquiries come from overseas, which is honestly, it's just been mind-boggling. Like, we only went live with the franchises Friday, a few days ago.
Wow.
And we've had best part of close to about 90 inquiries through so far. So I don't think I really appreciated how much of a supporters club that the brand already had. And that's something that we're looking to build on. So I'm really looking forward to getting into that. And then the other thing is that it's also got a lot of real estate and construction involved within it. So if you've seen the film Founder with Ray Kroc about McDonald's, you'll understand how the fast food business is just as much of a real estate business as anything else. So there's a transferable skill set there. And then, as well as what you're saying in terms of with project management and the skill set of project management, at first I used to be really bad at this, but now I can take an idea, brainstorm, and we can put a plan in place as to what we need to do to deliver something, whether we know the information or whether we go out and seek that information.
What's your sort of methodology to that?
Simple brainstorming, what it is, what do we need to do initially? So let's say we need to do marketing. What type of marketing do we need to do? And then we'll just come up with random ideas. Or we need to sponsor a kids football team in an area that we want to go into, or in an area where a new franchise is going to be. We need to get onto black cabs. We need to get onto billboards. Your old school ways of getting that logo in your face. Can we go and do a merch drop somewhere? Can we go out and, go into schools and drop some, whatever it might be. Ultimately, you need to get the image of the brand out there. Paid advertising, that sort of stuff. So you just come up with different brainstorming elements, and then you basically just figure out, what do we know what to do? What do we know how to do? And I normally like to target those as your quick wins, just to get a bit of momentum, and then bucket the other things that we don't know how to do into, like, who can I go to? 1, 2, 3, I can go and ring Scott about that. So I'm due to go meet Scott next week for a coffee, and then I'm going to ask him about those 3 things. In the property world, we soon realize that if you don't know something, you go out there and you go and find a mentor or a coach, or you pay for some time, and you don't really know that in the business world until you've been through it. So same thing, we'll just go and we'll find people that have been in scenarios before than where we need to be, or and then just go from there, really. So it all just starts on a piece of paper, an iPad, whatever you want to do, an Excel spreadsheet, however you want to name it. But ultimately, it just requires a little bit of thought to understand, what can I do, what I can't do, and how do I learn how to do the things that I can't do.
Makes sense. Kind of going back to the property and the entrepreneur piece, I guess this is however you want to answer this question, but what's been like one of the biggest challenges that you've had to face as a business owner, or someone working in property and also having business interests as well?
I think, this is, I don't want to go too dark, but I think the most difficult parts are realizing that there's a lot more that happens that people don't see. The dark side of business, the tough side of business, the side where you've got family events going on that you can't really get intermingled in because you've got work to do. The holidays that you have to be answering phone calls on. There's a side to business where you sometimes think that you have to put the persona out that, I'm good. Things are going well, but really it could be a crashing fireball on the other end. And it's all about, right, okay, I need to go win that next bit of business to get me out of this temporary hole, if that be. We all have it. Like, I've had periods where I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills in a week, but then suddenly it happens. I've had periods where we've had 6-7 months of cash in the bank and we're all good and everything's all chilled, and suddenly, boom, like we lose a job. I think, right, shit, we're going to be eating into our savings here now. I've had all of that. And I think the way I've got about it is figuring out, or sort of planning the week out to a point where you just think, right, this week is the last week that we're going to be doing business in, and this is what we've got to get done to survive. The other side of it is I say that's related to it really, is that people sometimes judge you to think that you're absolutely killing it when they don't really know what it takes to get to that point. And you might have invested a crap ton back into your business and cash reserves might be really low, but you're the guy that's investing in property and you're doing all of this and what the heck, like, it was role models like this that made us go into property. And then you realize when you're in there that, you know what, there's so much more to it. So I think that's the hard part. It's the self-educating to relax and calm down and pull yourself through. But then at the same time, not get wound up when people think something and you think, what makes you think that? But yeah.
I think it's a really interesting point what you've touched on there. And I see it quite a lot that social media, people put out 120% of what the 100% is. And people compare themselves to that 120% and think, how am I not where they are?
Why am I not doing it?
And then people take unnecessary risks to get to that point. And because the reality of what the actual person who's posted, whether they're sat in front of a Lamborghini or they're going to Dubai or whatever it is, that, flying first class, but behind the scenes are, got credit card debt and what have you. People see that and they start to take risk and try to push things further because they're trying to match what is ultimately not realistic.
Yeah.
And I see that all the time. And I think what you've just discussed there is the reality of business. It's sometimes, we've had 6 months of stability, but this month, how am I going to pay my bills? And I think anyone that says they've not been through that as a business owner is either an oil baron or a liar.
Or they've not been in it long enough.
Or that, yeah, exactly. And I think it's always refreshing. And I knew we were going to have a real conversation on this podcast when people come on this podcast and they share the realities of business, which is that it's not easy. Shit goes wrong. It's fucking hard work. It's 24/7. If you're not on the phone or doing a schedule or doing something like that, you're thinking about it. You're present, but you're not present. You're like, oh, I need to do that. That needs doing. How am I going to sleep tonight? It's just constant. And I think maturing as a business owner is getting through that and then becoming more clear, which is obviously where I would say I am, probably similar to yourself, where you kind of get clarity on where I'm going, what things are happening, got a bit more money behind you, things are starting to unravel, more opportunities arising, bigger opportunities arising, and it's kind of taking those steps. But the decade of work, it's like that iceberg, there's a decade of work that goes behind getting to that point.
100%.
But people only see that final 20%.
I think you touched on it as well. I think the other big challenge that I have and it's just I can't switch off. Like there's no turn off valve.
Yeah.
You know, I can't remember the last time I sat on the sofa to watch a movie, and still be present half an hour in, or the WhatsApp hasn't gone out and I'm not responding back to messages that I've had through, emails have come through, and blah blah blah, and it's bonkers. But there's that then leads me on to like what caused me to be that way was because I was always trying to achieve and tackle a damn to-do list. And you soon realize that to-do list will never stop. No matter what it is, no matter how low you get, suddenly you've got, let's say you've smashed out of the day and you've now got some brain clarity and you've got time on your hands and you've gone for a walk. Sure as hell, you're going to probably think of 5 other things that you need to do. Oh, now I've done that. I should be doing this as well. You do that and then you bring it in, and ever since things have got a bit crazy, literally for me now it's like 4 or 5 priority things that need to be done that day, and they will just get boxed, knowing full well that other things will have to creep lower down. Does that still happen? Is it still the idea that once I've done those 4 or 5 things that, that's it, now I can chill out and relax and I've clocked the day? No, I'll probably go and do a couple more things. But what I'm saying is reassessing the expectations to know if you've done those 4 or 5 things, then right, you've had a good day, as opposed to be constantly deflated. Damn, I've ticked 6 things off, but I've still got 70 things on the list. So that was my biggest problem. Still is a problem to date. But yeah, I think other people will relate to that quite well.
100%. I think it's a bit of an entrepreneur curse. It's that inability to. I don't think it's as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs thrive on that to-do list. When that to-do list disappears, like I'll use the example when I sold my business, I had nothing to do. And that for me was like, you go from almost working full time to nothing.
Yeah.
That was...
It just bogs my mind, just thinking about it.
It's almost like I've got too much time to spend with myself, and actually turns out I don't like myself. No, probably not that bad, but you kind of, that to-do list is the purpose. And I think whenever I have this type of conversation on the podcast, I always ask a question like, what's the end? What does the end look like?
It's a good question, that, mate. I think the end for me is being in a position where if the missus and the kids and the family say, right, should we go on a holiday, that you can just pick up the bags and go.
Yeah.
To get to a structure where that is. Now there's no, like, there's few ways you can answer that. Like, what's the income goal? Like, I haven't got an income goal. Like, what's the business goal? I haven't got a business goal. Like, for me, it's like a placement in life and where I want to get to. I've got 3 kids, all young, all growing. And the thing for me really is getting to a position where I know that when they're older, they know that their dad's hard work has got something to show for it, as one. And then also, as well as that, is moving to a position where, like I mentioned, we want to go and book a holiday once every month, go for a weekend away somewhere. We can do. And just being in that, not financial freedom as per se, because I enjoy working, I want to still work, but when you decide enough's enough and you just want to walk away for a little bit, you can do.
Yeah.
That's the end goal for me.
It's the perfect imbalance.
Yeah.
Retirement, but not really retirement.
Yeah. That's the right way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think most people in business are. I couldn't imagine myself not working. And I mean, fortunately, my obviously grandparents got older. They retired, stopped working. But it's almost like you give up, you quit. But there's so much more to life than sort of quitting and retiring. It's
the idea of like passing a business down to the kids and all that jazz, and that's what motivates me. Giving them something to know that they're not at a start zero, but they've got a platform that they can then take to the moon. Like, that's
something only me and you can dream of.
Pretty much, mate. Pretty much, pal.
Brilliant.
But
Oh, amazing. So I guess fast forwarding back to today then, how did you come across the opportunity with the fast food stuff? How did that evolve?
Again, it was one of those moments where we did a couple of good things for an individual, helped them out with a business opportunity that they were looking at. So they were looking at getting into another business, and we looked into it, had a chat with them, and I just wasn't too keen on it. And this was me just giving a bit of advice. I was like, look, it just doesn't make sense for me, this. We actually chatted to about 4 or 5 different fast food businesses to, one, franchise, or secondly, actually jump into business with them to help them grow and basically get a seat at the management table. And we spoke to a couple, and then there was the boys at Nashville. That there's 2 beautiful brothers that founded that, and genuinely, like, I couldn't think of more humble business partners ever if I tried, which is great. And I then got approached to say, look, we've had this conversation. They're up for something, but we need to put a promising proposal to them. Are you up for a chat? I was like, look, let's have a chat about it. Let's see what the business is about. And I knew about the food. Tried it a few times. Knew the food was awesome. And when I got told about it, I was like, food? Like, no, you got no chance, mate. Like, I'm not getting involved in food. Like, I'm a property guy. Like, what's all that about? And then one of my favorite films is actually Founder, and he actually quoted the founder back to me. And I was like, oh, damn it. Right, okay. So then we started speaking to them, and suddenly we realized that we actually created, there was a power team at play here. So you got the 2 founders who are, one of them is wicked at product development and one of them is wicked at kitchen operations. We've got another partner who has got extensive experience at different commercial kitchens, such as, there's big names like Chunky Chickens, you got Heavenly Desserts, Toro's, you name it, like some really like household names within that food industry. And then you've got another partner who has just come from the telephone industry, huge corporate experience in order to like sort of keep us all control driven, process driven. And then you got myself, construction, finance, know how to network, know how to pitch, know how to get finance off someone. So all of those experiences all played in, and then we've all basically just come together and created a nice rounded team. We're then growing that brand out, and it's it was one of those. It started as a bit of a passion project and suddenly turned into something that you think, oh damn it, this could be a game changer here. After we've realized what opportunity we've actually got, and we're speaking to some very, very, very big businesses that want to take the brand to a region of England and expand it like crazy in that region.
Amazing.
And then naturally with that, you've got other networking opportunities, other business opportunities that comes as a byproduct. So I just, hey, it's the same game for me for my role within there. It's, raising investment as such, construction projects to fit out the stores and just make sure everything's running as it need to.
Just for our listeners' benefits then, what sort of skills go into raising finance?
Experience, confidence. There's a lot of, you can't really be at the stage of, if I'm talking to you and saying, like Scott, this is what I can't do that. Like, I need to be able to tell you what we're doing, articulate it in a very calm way. And then as well as that, be able to tell you with enough detail that I know what I'm talking about here. And that for me, that's always been, if I can't grill you on the nitty gritty and you don't understand that, then why am I going to trust you with money? That's my mindset on all of it. So I try and address that. And when I'm showing someone, so if I was to pitch to you now, if I'm showing you all the stuff that I do, you sure as hell will look at it and think, bloody hell, I've never seen that before. I've never seen this. I've never seen a property investor doing that before. And I always like sort of try and get myself to a point where I'm like, look, I'm over diligent. I'm over organized. I've got a team of, admin assistants behind me that I've got things going. We've built a business that allows us to withstand. Now, the project management business isn't necessarily a business that just goes out and foresees projects for others. It also does it a lot for myself. And we've created a system process. We've got a finance bookkeeper that basically looks after all our costings on all our projects, estimates, books materials, compares quotes, that sort of stuff. We've got an architect who works for us full time, who's literally doing all our design work, tender work, QS work. We basically I can get a full job costed quite accurately, probably within 2-3 days for ourselves. We did one project which was a 12-bed HMO. The original budget was we were hoping to get it delivered in 590 grand. That was purchasing, developing it, all that jazz. We finished it out at 603 grand. So, not breaking the bank. And we're talking like 350 grand refurb, 1,100-1,200 pound a square meter. But when I told you the amount of work we've done for 1,100-1,200 pound a square meter, it's what most contractors would charge at 1,700-1,800 pound a square meter. So we built a process on there to, have a solid set of boys, a solid set of teams. For me to be able to only go onto sites for probably 4 hours a week, 1 hour at a time, either every 2 days. And it's a culmination of that. We built that business. I know what that business does. When I articulate that to my investors know that we've got it sort of boxed. And then it just goes from there.
Confidence and credibility.
Yeah, generally.
Yeah. So I guess finding that first investor then, did you kind of already have that business established and then or was it investor for, how did that sort of look?
I think the first investor, where it actually sealed the deal was where I was putting some of my capital in my own. So some of the proceeds that I saved from the PM business. I was first trying to raise 100% finance, and that was always a tough sell. The whole idea was, have you got any skin in the game? What's going on? That sort of stuff. And then the other side that made it quite easy is when we actually got bridging lenders involved, because it showed confidence to the investors that another third-party individual or third-party institution was actually doing due diligence on your deals, and they were happy to lend on that. So why wouldn't you? Sort of thing. And then further to that is just showing a credibility of past deals that we've done that was similar to the one that we are pursuing to do. Whether that was on a project management basis or whether that was on this basis. And then ultimately it's just a matter of convincing that first person to believe in you, whether it's a small amount, a large amount, wherever it might be, go from there really.
Amazing. So I guess to round the episode off then, to make a successful property entrepreneur, multiple business owner, what do you think the key is to success?
Be in it for the long term. If you're hoping to change your life within 3-4 years, it's not the place for you. Seeing through the bullshit, understanding that before you start jumping into bed with people on JVs, you understand who you're jumping into bed with. And I think that the other major one for me really is you have more bad days than good days, but the good days make up for the bad days. Is the thing that sticks with me quite a bit now. I have horrible days where I'm nothing's going right. Trades are cancelling on me. This guy's pushed forward. Now the plasterers can't come in for another 2 weeks. What do I do in this scenario? We've got 2 weeks of extra holding costs. How does that work? But then suddenly you'll get a deal that's below market value by God knows how much, and you don't give a damn about your problems now. It's like this, and then suddenly it changes. So I think you just got to be in it to ride through the waves, and accept that shit is going to go wrong. when it goes wrong, you just got to control how bad the explosion is.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. Honestly, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I agree with all the points. I think you've got to have that endurance to be in business. You've got to love it in a really fucked up way. You've got to love business, even if it puts you through hell. You've got to enjoy it. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on today. And for people that want to get in touch with you, what's the best route to finding you?
Instagram's probably the easiest way. Seth Rehan. Just find me on Instagram. That's probably the best way to get in touch.
Yeah.
If you need a hand with anything, but yeah, just drop us a message and say Scotty sent you.
Good stuff. And obviously, thanks again for coming on today, mate.
Anytime, bro.
Good stuff.
All good.
Thank you very much to listeners. Obviously, a great podcast there. I enjoyed it. I don't know about you guys, but obviously Seth's got some great experiences and insights to business and property. Obviously, being a property on podcast, it's important that we're covering that point. But as most people know, it's property and business. They kind of come hand in hand. So again, if you do listen to this podcast on a regular basis, please do like and leave us a review on the audio, and obviously like and subscribe on YouTube. It helps the podcast massively. Thanks again. See you again.